So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning for our webinar on building data and AI capability in health. We have two speakers today, and we've got Dr. Sushil Varna, who's the Director of Engineering at HDR UK, who's going to share his perspectives on applications and benefits of AI in health. And then we have Dr. Raul Umar, CEO and founder of Cambridge Spark, and he'll be talking about the AI Apprenticeship Academy for Health. There'll be plenty of opportunity at the end to ask questions, and please note that this session is being recorded. So I'll now hand over to Dr. Sushil Varma for the first presentation.
Thanks, Sarah. So I don't know how much you know about HDA. I've just got a couple of slides just to introduce what our institutes, and then I'll get straight on to what we're doing in HDA around data science and data engineering, and try and show you a demo of what we have on the gateway. So without further ado, so HDA UK is the UK's de facto National Institute for Health Data Science in the UK, and our remit is to try and unite, improve, and use health data for research. And we're a distributed institute. We cover all 4 nations in the UK. We have a central office in London, but we are dispersed across the UK. And just to highlight the fact that we have 3 main missions around HDA UK, so uniting data together. And this is where a lot of the data engineering and artificial intelligence, ML, is currently focused on, to try and improve the quality of the data and get that data linked up together and making that available for researchers. The other aspect is improving the quality of the health data. You know, a simple example is ethnicity, you'd think would be well coded across the NHS and across other arm's length bodies in the UK, but in fact, it's not. Even though we treat the NHS as one single organization, it's organizations across all 4 nations. And most often than not, things like ethnicity, as simple as that, would not be coded up properly. So we collect and harmonize that information as part of our improving work in the UK. And the other part is using the data. So this is for research, cancer, irritable bowel syndrome, ophthalmology, and so on. And particularly last year around COVID-19, trying to pull that together. So for doing this work as part of the uniting team, we have what we're calling the gateway. And the gateway started last year, sometime around February last year, but the official launch was around May, June. So we're coming up to our first year anniversary of the gateway. We've collected a huge amount of resources. We've contracted it out to develop this in partnership with other organizations in the UK. And the gateway sort of built together a search engine for health data assets in the UK. And these are data sets, tools, papers, people, collections of entities as part of the gateway. We started with 16 data sets, and this is just a registry, just knowing what data sets are available for research, particularly for machine learning and other applications as such. And we started that journey one year this month. And then we are now going to a position of trying to build increased capabilities to try and do federated analytics, core discovery, building an ecosystem of partners across the UK, making data more available for researchers. And we have a journey that we're going. We're funded all the way up to 2023, and hopefully we'll get funding going forward. But throughout this entire journey, you will see a lot of information trying to pull together. AI and ML, for example, would be featured quite heavily within the federated analytics space. So just as a high-level overview of what the gateway is and how and what's its relation to HDA UK and the data custodians, the gateway essentially gives researchers in the UK 4 main capabilities to be able to discover data sets that's useful for them, access data sets, analyze data sets, and then hopefully communicate the results of their research to the community, and thereby closing the loop of allowing other researchers to build on top of the research that was conducted. We've done a huge amount of work building out trusted research environments. These are just glorified data centers that hold a huge amount of information around a particular patient. It might be longitudinal, it might be in breadth, linking lots of different data sources together. It might also be in depth, so taking a single patient and going all the way to genomic level information, so from molecules to man, essentially, in terms of integration. So we've done all of that work, partnering with our alliance members. And then what we've done is to work with the research teams and trying to codify what are the types of research that people want to do. So all the way from basic research to cross-sectoral research, looking at air quality, for example, and its impact on health. And the Gateway and HDA UK is trying to connect these two dots, these two groups of people, the suppliers of data and the consumers of data, which are the researchers. And to do that, we have built a federated set of capabilities to try and make data more discoverable, more accessible, analysis performed in a streamlined way, and making and communicating the results back out to the research community. We've gone one step further with our work to try and build another higher level layer, and this is where some of the AI and ML kind of work is starting to take shape. And we'd like to engage with apprentices, research team leads, and others to try and build a set of capabilities around this. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Let me just cancel that. We're trying to build a community around this level of data. So in my next slide, I'll just quickly show you a demo of the Gateway. I've talked a lot about the Gateway, but I realize you haven't seen the Gateway. So let me just stop sharing, and hopefully I will jump into a Gateway demo. So this is the Gateway. If you go to healthdatagateway.org, you'll be able to see data sets, tools, collections, and other various entities on the Gateway. So if I search for particular topic in mind, so COVID-19 is pretty much on everyone's lips. So if I search for COVID, it gives me a list of data sets. So 124 data sets within the Gateway to highlight the amount of data sets we've collected. And all we have here is metadata around data sets. So just clicked on the COVID symptom tracker data set. So if you ever use the Zoe symptom tracker app in the UK or globally, this is where the data set is stored. So we've collected that data, made that available for researchers, stored that securely within the SAIL data bank, and the metadata around that data set is available. You can also look at the technical details of the data. So if I search for, so one of the tables within the data set is this D-COVID test. Again, there's a lot of harmonization that needs to happen. And it also gives you the data sets and the field, the variable names, and what kind of data set there are in those data sets. A particular important point here is we want to collect more metadata around this. So I would like to know what is the profile of country codes within this data set. I'd like to know what the location codes is on the time longitudinal aspect of this data. And the next part after that is to be able to request access to the data. So if I click on request access, I need to sign in. After I sign in, I go through and fill in a form to be able to access the data. One particular useful feature we've released in April of this year is cohort discovery. So if I try and do a cohort discovery tool, which may be useful to you if you're interested in a particular disease theme, you can log into the cohort discovery tool. Again, you need to be a validated researcher to access this tool. But once you're a validated bona fide researcher, you're given this interface. So rather than searching on metadata about the data set, you're able to search for the disease theme. So we call these phenotypes. So if I wanted to search for asthmatic females, I just drag and drop asthma. And this is where I think a lot of the data engineering AI happens. So to codify what asthma means to a healthcare condition, there's a huge amount of clinical codes that needs to be harmonized. So there's things like ICD-10 codes, SNOMED CT codes, and READ codes that are vocabularies or terminologies that healthcare professionals use. And what we've done as part of the HDA UK community is to codify and collect those kind of terminologies together. So asthma, I can drag in other disease themes for example, if I'm only looking for asthmatic females as part of a research study, or if I wanted to do comorbidities between fatigue and asthma, I could do that as well. But let me just run this example query. What's happening behind the scenes is I'm searching across 7 different databases in the HDA UK network and comes back with the result. And it comes back saying, I've got 3,000 patients who are asthmatic females in a certain number of data sets. In this example here, oh, sorry, just expand that out, click on the wrong button. In this example here, the system is telling me there's 3 data sets within which there are these number of patients that is of interest to me in terms of research. The next step for me is to be able to go into the results. I can look at how I've performed the query and how the query has responded with the results. I can then click on an example here. So this is the one, or GASP is the one that has the most number of patients. I click through that, get to the data set I'm looking for, and make my request to the data. Once I've got access to data, I can perform all sorts of analytical profiling and analysis on the data. So let me just quickly switch back to my presentation. Sorry. And I'll just skip a few slides just to make sure get the whole gamut. So the complexity really comes in. Sorry, just realized I'm not sharing my screen. So the complexity really comes in because there's a huge amount of information around data sets in particular that we collect in HDR UK. So data sets is one thing, but we also want to collect cohort definitions. So what is the research that you've done on a particular set of characteristics on a patient, and how does that compare with the control sets of patients? How is that cohort defined in terms of phenotypes and terminologies? But once you've done that, that's only one layer of the puzzle. You also want to collect metadata around who is running these projects, what tools was used as part of the project. Was it AI and ML? What is the verification and validation of those tools? What papers were published as part of this? And then finally, can we create educational courses to teach people on how to create a good quality or best practice data sets? How do you create tools, and how do you create and run projects to use those tools on those data sets? And then build an entire ecosystem and a collection around disease themes to say, for cardiovascular science, here's a list of data sets and tools and papers that is relevant for your research. So there's a huge amount of collection and curation involved in our work, and that is important because AI and ML is just one analysis method. I'm emphasizing AI and ML because of the title of the talk, but essentially there's lots of different techniques that we want to collect together, and there's a huge amount of community of people internationally trying to get access to data for public benefit. Again, all of the data access requests that's managed through the gateway is for public benefit, and we support both local, national, and international researchers coming into the gateway. An important point of distinction between the work that we've done and other communities is around safety. And one of the work that we've done is around harmonizing how safety is measured or evaluated within HDR UK and how access is granted to researchers. So we're using a framework called the 5 Safes framework. So to be able to accurately identify who is accessing the data, so safe people, for what project, so safe project, what data is being used as part of that project, so safe data, in what setting is it being used, so is it being analyzed on your laptop or in a trusted research environment, which has security perimeters built in, and what outputs are being generated. So you want to minimize the risk of re-identifiability. And this is an important concept to get across, and having that in your mind whenever you're running a research project in health data is important, because there are certain types of analysis you will not be allowed to perform on that data because of the re-identifiability risk for the data. One way of thinking about this is just taking one dimension here is the sensitivity of the data. So for example, you could have really identifiable data, which means that you may not be able to, so a general public may not be able to perform analysis on the data, but perhaps NHS staff who's doing a service evaluation may be able to access that data for the public benefit. And again, that level of gradation is important to keep in mind on the type of data you're using. And in each case, there is these sets of, so if you're ever familiar with Winamp, it's showing my age, but essentially if you think of an equalizer framework for each of these different saves, if a data set is somewhere in the middle, so deep personalized data, you can minimize or mitigate the risk by relaxing the number of restrictions on safe people and safe projects. But in case the data is highly identifiable, you need to ramp up the amount of verification and validation you need to do on the Safe People, Safe Project, and perhaps even Safe Outputs as well. So the workflow we're trying to enable for researchers is to be able to get from discovery, so being able to discover data sets, all the way to running an analysis and getting the results back out. An example of the work that we've done is to try and align a trusted research environment across the UK, so around the 5 safes. So once you have the TR trust research environments, we have public and patient oversight on every project that's run through the infrastructure. You can discover metadata through the gateway, so that's that line that goes into the metadata. You can log into that trusted research environment. You're able to submit access requests to run that research, and then you can perform metadata queries. So the core discovery tool that I showed you before is also available. And then through each of the safes, we are standardizing how research is being conducted in the UK. And that's the problem we are facing in the UK, because there's so many different ways of how research is conducted across the ecosystem. So once you have these kind of standards, and we're trying to promote these standards as part of research in the UK, we then can standardize that mechanism to connect other trusted research environments together so that it's all accessible through a single portal. And this is only within the UK. Of course, we can extend that out internationally as well. So in terms of federation, and these are my last 2 slides, I promise, so that I can hand over to Raul. So how much time do I have, just out of interest?
A minute or 2, so she'll be fine.
Yeah, okay. So last couple of slides. In terms of how you can get access to the data, we're setting up an infrastructure, federated infrastructure, that allows you to access data. So through these 5 SAFE principles. So being able to uniquely identify you as a researcher, bona fide researcher, perhaps even an accredited researcher, to be able to move between trusted research environments. Being able to take your analysis code, your ML algorithms, or your analytical code in Stata or R, to be able to submit that information remotely, to perform that analysis remotely within the trusted research environment. Being able to query and identify data from these trusted research environments, and then be able to provide capabilities for those trusted research environments to scale out to access bespoke or esoteric infrastructures. For example, if you're doing a genome build analysis, you perhaps want to access a bioinformatics co-processor, which may not be available in Amazon or Google or one of the other cloud providers. So being able to burst out and access those infrastructures remotely whilst maintaining the security perimeter. And essentially what HDA UK and the Gateway is trying to do is to try and build a flywheel. So if you're ever familiar with mechanical engineering, flywheel maintains momentum, and it's almost a battery. What we're trying to do is to build a mechanism where we can get new sources of data, improve and link the data, make that new data asset more accessible and discoverable, build analysis for people to use, and then use that to drive further improvement and identify new data resources. And this flywheel keeps growing as and when more data sources come in, more researchers come in, and that flywheel keeps gaining momentum so that we can accelerate the research that happens in the Gateway. And I leave you with the one final thought we kind of use as a mantra in HDA UK. There's lots of ways of being able to do your research, but the most effective way, at least in the UK, is to try and build a community together. So a proverb that we use is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So trying to build a community that builds together the expertise from various different sources to try and improve the health data ecosystem. And with that, I'll hand over to Raul to be able to give you more insights into how you could upskill your work. So I'll stop sharing.
Super, thank you very much, Sashil. And it's really amazing to see the fantastic work to have the data infrastructure to access all these data sets to enable researchers to conduct their work. So really fascinating. I'm gonna share my screen and put everybody on my other screen, which is lovely. We've got so many attendees today. So let me share my screen. Sashil, I've got you on the screen. Can you confirm you can see my screen? Yeah, super. Wonderful. Welcome everybody. A really pleasure to be here. So my name is Raoul. I am the CEO of Cambridge Spark. And as mentioned, I think it's really fantastic to see the infrastructure made available by HDR UK to enable everyone to get access to the data sets. I think the next step now is, what about the skills and the tools that's going to enable researchers to be able to create predictions, to get an understanding of certainty, or to influence a decision-making process thanks to that data. So in my section, I'm going to cover an exciting new program that we've launched with HDR UK that you can utilize to gain the skills and tools needed to accelerate your research. So Cambridge Spark, we are a specialist data science and AI training provider. And fundamentally, we believe that data is changing how organizations have to operate and have to adapt in the world that we live in today, including in the health sector. And in order to address this need, as an organization, we run a range of professional development programs, including apprenticeships, which are funded by the government, which gives you an immediate opportunity to join and upskill in order to accelerate your career and your research. Now, we are also supported by Innovate UK, so it's really fantastic to see all those organizations coming together. So here's the agenda for my talk. I will keep it nice and sweet, and really happy to answer questions at the end. So the first thing I'll cover is what are apprenticeships and why is it particularly relevant for individual and researchers that are looking to upskill in this new world where data is everywhere. So what are apprenticeships? Well, there is a bit of a misconception around what an apprenticeship actually is. So simply, it's a professional development program which is funded by the government thanks to your employer. And apprenticeships are accessible for all individuals from all backgrounds and all ages, from 16 all the way to 100 plus. So what that means is that they're really suitable both for early careers, but also for staff that's currently employed in an organization. So if you've always been wondering around how can you gain new skills and knowledge in data analytics, data science, and machine learning, then you're in the right place, because there's an apprenticeship program available for you. And the way the scheme works is that in England, employers have to pay a levy to the government. And this levy can be utilized in professional development opportunities that are accredited by the government. And Cambridge Spark, together with HDR UK, we have a range of programs which allow you to participate in an apprenticeship program, which is fully funded. So that's the good news. You're not going to have to worry around the cost of training, because it's already funded through the government. So that's fantastic. And typically, the use cases for apprenticeships are threefold. One is to actually upskill. So maybe yourself as an individual, you want to stay relevant. You feel like there's new skills and tools that are needed to accelerate your work. So upskilling is a great use case for an apprenticeship program. It might be reskilling. Perhaps you're interested in evolving a different role. Maybe you're interested in being a data analyst or a data scientist thanks to your domain expertise in health and research. So that's reskilling. And also, apprenticeships can be used as a way to create a new talent pipeline and allow you to pull into new candidates, which you bring in the organization and train up so that they can join your respective teams and projects. So those typically three use cases of how we see apprenticeship being used in England. So now that you understand the context around what an apprenticeship program is, I'm not going to tackle the different learning pathways available for you in order to being part of that data journey. And in this slide, what you're going to see is really that data touches every role in every organizations. It touches really everyone. So it might be that you're a user of data. Perhaps you're essentially using a tool like Excel, or the organization itself has just implemented a data strategy and you want to stay relevant. So we have a data essential certificate, which allows you to build fundamental data literacy so you can understand the value that data brings to the business, how to identify opportunities to use data, how you can be more productive on a day-to-day using off-the-shelf tools like Excel and Power BI, and how to develop that confidence so you can communicate more effectively with data visualization and with simple statistics. So that's really a foundational program, which we believe everyone in every role should have some level of data literacy. This feeds into the next program, which is what we call a data analyst track. And this is really enabling you to get extra analytical capabilities. So perhaps you would be using and accessing the different data sets provided by HDR UK. And then the next step would be, how can I analyze it? How can I summarize? How can I visualize and see if there's different trended insights that we can leverage? So this program will teach you Python, the lingua franca of data analytics, thanks to its flexibility, SQL, the ability to undertake exploratory data analysis, so merging different data sets, cleaning them, changing the format, summarizing it. And that's really going to enable individuals to be self-served and have more ownership around the data that they are using. And finally, this feeds into this new exciting program that we're launching in partnership with HDR UK, which is our level 7 data science and machine learning engineering track. And really the objective of this program is to enable you to develop forecasts. So for example, Sushil mentioned the COVID-19 cases. What's the trend looking like? What's going to be the impact of specific policy interventions? It's also about being able to build predictive models that's going to give you perhaps an understanding of the symptoms that a patient may have, and perhaps give you a better understanding of the diagnosis, thanks to statistical methods. But also something that often gets missed out in research, I believe, is also how to operationalize the work that you've done. So if you develop a model, how are you going to provide that to another team or another organization to think about how to productionize your research? So those topics are all covered in our level 7 data science and machine learning engineering apprenticeship program, which is what I'm going to focus on here for the rest of this talk. So we have launched the AI Apprenticeship Academy for Health, which essentially contextualize data science and machine learning in the domain of health. So when you think about the machine learning life cycle, really you can split it up into 3 different layers that all have equal importance. One is around data engineering. So every model starts with data at the end of the day. That's why it's really exciting to see that all those data sets are now available on the HDR UK platform for researchers, and they can query it and get access to this data, which can be either static, so provided through a range of data formats, or dynamic, perhaps through an API. So you'll need to plug into those data sources and have the skills and tools to ingest it, analyze, transform the data, do some sanity checking, and then perhaps split it up into different data assets that are going to help you develop the next step, which is actually building a predictive model. And for that, I call this the data science layer, which is about trying different techniques that's going to tell you predictions. So it's going to help you get an understanding of the uncertainty associated to a prediction. So you'll have to build a model, and there's various algorithms and models that fit different use cases. So perhaps you might be interested in doing time series forecasting, which would be what are the number of cases that we're likely to see, or what's the hospital utilization like? Or perhaps you'd like to build a model that's going to predict the diagnosis of a patient. So different models and tools and techniques available depending on your use case, and you'll need to validate it and be confident that it's making the right prediction, especially in the health sector. And then, of course, there are different techniques that you'll need to think about, such as being able to explain why your model is creating a specific output. And then that moves us nicely into the machine learning engineering space, which is really looking about how can we go from a model perhaps written in a notebook as a prototype to actually something that can be used by the wider public and maintained over time. So perhaps served as an API, which other organizations and other teams can plug into. So that's our machine learning engineering layer. Now, our new level 7 AI Apprenticeship Academy for Health would cover all the layers that you see in this diagram. So now I'm going to introduce the curriculum. So this apprenticeship program, as I've mentioned, is fully funded. So you can register your interest, and your employer essentially is part of the apprenticeship scheme already. Now, this program is 15 months and requires you to have around 20% of your time ring-fenced for the purpose of acquiring new skills, new knowledge, and new behavior, which you'll be able to embed as part of your work. The program is fully virtual, provided through instructors that are really exceptional. So experts coming from top universities worldwide, so PhDs in machine learning, computer science and math. So you really have access to the latest research in the space. And the classes are delivered live through instructors. You also get access to a learning platform with all the curriculum and modules. We have a really innovative platform called Educate.ai, which essentially is a cloud-based platform where you have notebooks, data sets across different sectors, and especially within the health sector, which allows you to try things out in a safe environment. So especially in data science, you really need to learn by doing, through dirty data sets, through errors, and get an understanding of what you're doing. So you'll have a platform which will really accelerate your learning. But I think importantly, you'll be part of a wider community with like-minded individuals as part of a partnership with HR UK. So that means study groups, hackathons, be able to join quarterly research paper reviews, and really share your insights with your peers, and really develop a community that is going to essentially showcase how machine learning can be useful within the health sector. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see the curriculum of this apprenticeship program. So it's really comprehensive. It's going to take you from exploratory data analysis all the way to interfacing with different database systems, to learning about foundational machine learning across different use cases like supervised learning, clustering, time series analysis, and then moving gradually to more advanced models that tend to be performing really well in the context of research. So what that would mean is deep learning model typically perform really well with image data sets. So that's really disrupting the medical field. Natural language processing, how to explain the decisions made by your model before perhaps it serves as an input to the medical practice. And finally, we also have a couple of electives that you can choose towards the end of the program, depending on whether you want to specialize more in a data science field or whether you're more interested in the machine learning engineering field. So that's the program in a nutshell. I just want to spend a bit of time to explain to you how the learning experience looks like once you join the program. So you will be part of a cohort of like-minded individuals and peers coming from different organizations, but all sharing the same interest around what data science can do for research. So you'll be attending live workshops throughout the year, which are conducted virtually via Zoom. So you'll attend classes with an instructor and tutors and your peers, which is a fantastic opportunity to ask questions on the spot and really acquire the knowledge that is needed. And this is provided together with the HDR UK expertise to really contextualize how data science can have an impact in the health sector and utilize some of the data sets that have been made available. So that's acquiring knowledge. But really, in order to be able to embed that knowledge in your work, you'll need the skills. So this is what we call the experimentation stage. So you'll get access to a cutting-edge learning platform, so Educate.ai, which essentially you get access to sandboxed real-world projects. You write code in Python, you submit your code, you get instant feedback on correctness, quality, performance of your models for pedagogical reasons. So really experimentation is there to help you accelerate gaining the skills that are needed, which then moves into the application phase. And here you are allocated a technical mentor from Cambridge Spark, which really is an expert that will help you transfer those skills that you've earned into work-based projects. So that's actually looking at your use cases, looking at some of the data sets that you have access to in order to develop a machine learning-led solution. And this is really where you see the return investment in joining that program. Not only are you acquiring new knowledge and skills, which fundamentally that's great, but it's even better if you can showcase how the skills transfer into your work. And this is why you have a technical mentor available. And finally, you're part of a larger community. And I think this is really important because often you learn from what others are doing, the struggles or the success that they have across different use cases. So you're part of a peer community, and we organize regular monthly talks with inspiring speakers just to kind of like help stimulate your thinking. And on top of that, you get access to a professional coach from Cambridge Spark that is really here to help you support your career development and make sure you have the perfect environment to your needs to be successful. So that's the learning experience at Cambridge Spark. So I'm going to summarize the key information of this new AI Academy for Health program before I wrap up. So this program is really for anyone that has access to data sets and looking to get benefit from automation, insights, predictive analytics. So really a strong interest in applying data science and machine learning methods into data sets. And the good news is clearly those data sets are available for you to get your hands dirty with. Now, we require that you have programming experience in Python to join this program and fundamental maths. If you don't, do not worry. We have a data analyst program which will teach you Python. So perhaps it might be too early for you to join the level 7 program. If that's the case, we have another program which focuses more on data analytics that is available to you as well. But definitely in the level 7 data science track, you need to be comfortable with fundamental programming, so variables, loops, data structures, writing your own functions, and fundamentals in linear algebra and statistics. But as I've mentioned, we recommend that you register your interest, and we can provide you with materials and content to prepare before you join the program if you need to brush up. Now, this program is only available to employees in England. If you're not in England, you would not be eligible to the apprenticeship scheme. However, there is different learning solutions available to you if you sit outside of England. So this program is 15 months long and does require around 20% of your time ring-fenced for the purpose of acquiring new knowledge, skills, and behavior. It might feel like a long program, but honestly, time flies and you will not become a data scientist overnight. It's not something that happens in a day. It's something that happens through experience, through experimentation. And really the program gives you that ecosystem so you can really experiment and acquire those new skills with your peers. And as I mentioned, the good news, it's completely government funded. And by the end of the program, you will receive a qualification supported by the government at Cambridge Spark. Now, the way the program is delivered is really flexible through online virtual classes, including guest speakers and experts from HDR UK. You get access to a professional coach to help you with your career development, as well as a technical mentor to help you transfer the skills as part of your work. And you will develop a portfolio of projects throughout the program, which you'll be able to evidence and share with the wider community. Wonderful. So what are the next steps? Well, I've left my contact details here, so do feel free to get in touch with myself or the HDR UK team, including Sarah. So there's a couple of deadlines that you need to be aware of. So the next cohort starts in September. So there's an immediate opportunity for you to be part of that journey. There is an application process. So in terms of deadlines, we'll need all your information by 13th of August, and we'll have to work with your employer in order to set up the administrative paperwork associated with the apprenticeship scheme. So what I recommend is feel free to drop me an email or connect on LinkedIn, and I can put you in touch with the right people at Cambridge Spark. But it's good for you to know that there is sort of an August timeline, which is like the deadline for your application to be received if you want to join us September. Wonderful. So I'd like to say really grateful to the team at HDR UK and Sarah for organizing the webinar and for creating this partnership. It's really exciting, and I can't wait to see what the future generation of researchers will be able to do. So over back to you, Sarah.
Great, thank you, Raoul. I'll just open up now for, we've only got a few minutes left, for any questions for Raoul or Sushil. I can see one in the chat, Raoul, I don't know if you can answer that one. So you're on, yeah.
I've got the chat here. Let me just go through the list.
Oh, sorry, Raoul. So the question is, will there be a minimum of residence in UK for 3 years for this program?
Oh, that's a great question. So there is a minimum residency program. I have to be honest, I'm not the best person when it comes to the specific details of eligibility. So what I recommend, Olu, is that if you drop me a line, I can put you in touch with the right person, the Cambridge Spark team, and they'll be really happy to walk you through the eligibility criteria with yourself.
Are there any more questions?
I can see a couple of questions coming through, Sarah. So if you're happy, I'm happy to pick them up one by one.
Perfect. Yes, please.
Yeah. So Felix, how much would the program support research skills and a path towards a PhD? Fantastic question, Felix. So as part of this program, we conduct a quarterly academic research paper club, which is essentially reviewing latest research publications as part of a group. So I think those are essential skills that's really going to prepare you for a PhD, because it's about reviewing the literature and be able to challenge it. So I think that skill set definitely sets you up for your PhD. I think the other part is, as part of being part of this program, you're essentially gaining tools and techniques to help conduct your research. And on top of that, identify use cases to apply those tools and techniques, which fundamentally, that's what you need to be successful in the PhD program. So hopefully, Felix, I've answered your question there. Noemi, do you already know when the second apprenticeship will start for someone who cannot join the first in September? Absolutely, Noemi. So the next cohort will run in February 2022. So we run 3 cohorts a year: September, February, and June. Now, I recommend that you register your interest or drop a line just to make sure that you're in the loop with the latest news as we publish them. So there's a question from Emily. So maybe Sushil, perhaps that's a good question for yourself. If you're able to see the question in the chat.
Yeah, I have, and I think both. So the requirement, at least what the pandemic has taught us, is we need healthcare professionals to be trained up in data science. We need data science professionals to be trained up in health data and managing health data, apply their techniques. But yeah, we do envision healthcare professionals to be able to fit into this model, learn the data science techniques, and be able to apply that back into their own trusts as part of their normal day-to-day process. But one of the things we're kind of grappling with is how do we facilitate that? And this collaboration with Cambridge Spark is a great initiative to be able to build up those skills, to be able to apply that. And we kind of say this often in HDA UK, everybody's a data scientist, and you need to be able to understand the data that you're manipulating. It might not be health data, it might be health economic data, evaluating the efficacy of a treatment, for example. And all of that is important to be able to understand how data is acquired, collected, cleaned, used, and validated and verified as part of your health data journey. So yeah, we do definitely envision that role within HDA UK, and this collaboration is a great starting point.
Super, and maybe I'll mention that we do run a range of programs that might be more suitable around data literacy, as well as data analytics. So there's other options available depending on your role and experience that might be useful to you, Emily.
Thanks, Raoul. Are there any final questions? Oh, there's one just come through. I think that's probably for you, Raoul.
Great. So essentially, the level 7 data science apprenticeship equips you with the skills and tools so you can be productive and really transfer that in your own work-based project or your own interest. So certainly, as part of a partnership, we'd like to see health data use cases, but it doesn't have to be. Often there might be a sort of sector agnostic use cases that are worthwhile to invest data science and machine learning into. So ultimately, Karishma, it's your own interest that you need to follow. So that's up to you, but we want to encourage definitely applications of data science and machine learning in the health sector, together with all the data sets that have been made available by HDR UK.
Yeah, and just to add, so the European Commission today has launched the Horizon Europe program, which is 14.7 billion worth of funding, and one part of that funding is around monitoring indoor air quality and health. So it doesn't have to be health data; it's the augmented or ancillary information that you can use to inform health. Health is just one part of a larger ecosystem. So impact of climate change on health, so I'm just reading through impact of assessment from chemicals on health. So there are lots of these ancillary pieces of information. So transport, education, socioeconomic status, all of that leads as drivers to health outcomes. And so it doesn't always need to be on health, but as far as HDA UK is concerned, being able to use that ecosystem view of what data is important to help improve a patient's outcome is important. So yeah, all of that is definitely welcome.
Thanks, Sushil. I think we're really out of time now. As a next step, if Raoul's happy, I'll send his details to the group, and you can feel free to reach out and ask him any more questions you have about the programme, or you can speak to us directly as well. So just very much a thank you to Raoul and Sushil for today, and thank you all for participating. And yeah, thank you very much. And we'll share details of where the recording will be stored so that you can have a look